I'd like to welcome everybody to the People's Church of Divine Prophecy here today. Thank you for choosing to spend the last Sunday before Christmas here. I appreciate everybody's energy and hope. I'd like to ask everybody to silence their cell phones unless they're law enforcement or medical personnel. If you need the restrooms during the service, they're down the hall, quick right, quick left, and you're facing them. There's drinks in the back, coffee, donuts. Help yourself at any time during the service. We're not real strict about stuff here, so just enjoy yourself and have a good time. I'd like to have Jessica light the candle symbolizing the unity of body, mind, and spirit to start the service. Will you stand for the invocation and remain standing for the first hymn? Dear Father God, we give thanks for this time of year, especially for the feeling of peace and love to all mankind. May we feel this energy, this attitude at this time of year. May we feel that towards each other in the room here today. May we be able to carry this in some fashion to those that we meet, strangers or loved ones or others that we know throughout our lives today. May we feel this peace and harmony and realize that we get back as we give. We give thanks for your love and hope in this time of year. Amen. The next portion of the service is the reading by the pastor. This is where I try to think of something that occurred in the past week and put it into a perspective through a spiritual discipline that I practice in my life. This past week, actually yesterday, there was something that brought home to me a lot of the two sides of every challenge, every opportunity that comes our way in our lives. In every challenge or opportunity, there is that. We can see it as opportunity or as a frustration holding us back. It's our mind to choose whatever we want. Within everything that we encounter, there is those two things that we can look at. A simple example is that yesterday my wife's been collecting a lot of jewelry, so we decided to go to the flea market for a day to sell it all. And it's pretty nice stuff. It's sterling silver jewelry that usually retails for about $70 or $80, and she's selling it for $25 because she bid on it on eBay and got it for next to nothing. And it's stamped, it's all certified, good jewelry. And one vendor from the flea market came by and looked and bought about half of the inventory because it was so cheap, but she planned on reselling it after we left. She looked at it as an opportunity. Another vendor that had a jewelry booth immediately began running it down, telling us that we were selling fraudulent merchandise, that we were going to be arrested for it, and on and on and on. So here we go, and I myself can see myself with both opportunities and a lot of the decisions that come across my path. I can use it as an opportunity to grow or enhance my life, or I can use it as one to get into conflict with somebody. And we see this every aspect of our lives, almost every time we get into something with somebody that is a difficult nature for ourselves. The two options were, it's kind of funny because my friend downstairs, Manny, he's tasked all the time with, the prices in his bookstore. And his response is simple. He says, I employ 8 people. I have a building in downtown Daytona. I pay taxes, light bills, payroll bills, and I make a living myself off of it, so obviously I'm going to have to sell it for a little more than somebody like you. And that's the honest response, not run somebody's quality into the ground of something they're trying to do. And it just kind of brought it home to me about that, and I think that what guides us most of the time, if we take a moment to sit back and feel that presence, there's something called conscience that we have. And this conscience that we have is our ethical and moral guidelines summed together. It's what we listen to in the quiet. It's what we have as a time to guide us when things around us are disrupted. We have to be able to sit and be quiet for a moment when we feel this conscience. And it's a quiet response. It's not an emotional response. Here's a couple quick things about conscience. Conscience is the inner voice which guides you to do only that what's right and good. Conscience tells you to do what works. Conscience tells you to be honest, true, kind, pleasant, useful, cooperative, and respectful. And we each have our own level of connection to our consciousness and our conscience. We're guided by that. That's what grows as we encounter different things in life. That's how we put ourselves. And no one can really dictate to us what our conscience should tell us other than our higher power, our understanding of the God above. So again, it was just kind of interesting because my wife got really upset about that. She, oh God, we're going to pack up and leave. We're going to get arrested. I said, Peggy, do you think that there is a flea market police or a detective that comes around and looks at this kind of stuff and decides if you're selling quality merchandise or not? I said, it's a flea market by its very definition. So she calmed down, but it really got her upset there for a little bit. So I just leave those thoughts with you at this time of year. Take time to feel your conscience. Take time to feel that presence, that urging of God within. And you still may be a little bit emotional or disrupted about the situation you're in, but at least you'll have a clear idea of how you should act. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the People's Church of Divine Prophecy. I'm going to be chairing the service from now on. Our service is compiled of 3 parts. The first portion is the healing meditation, and the second part is spiritual lecture, and the third part is the demonstration of spirit. So we will start with the healing portion of the service. I would like to ask the healers to take their position behind the chairs. Those who like to receive hands-on healing, when you hear the sound of the bell, there is a space available, a chair available. You can go and receive hands-on healing. And those who like to sit through the meditation, I will be guiding you with the meditation. So find a comfortable position to sit, those who are going to sit through the meditation. Take in few deep breaths. Inhale. And with your exhale, release and let go of all the thoughts that are occupying your mind. With each inhale and exhale, let go of any pressure, tension in your physical body. Try to breathe as deep as you can. Breathe in and breathe out. Just bring your focus and your awareness to your breath. Do not let your mind to interfere. Just become aware of the mechanism of your breath. While you breathe in and out, feel your breath taking you deeper and deeper within. Find that peaceful presence that is within There are no thoughts, no distractions. Feels very quiet, calm, and soothing. Connect with this peaceful presence. And become one. Repeat to yourself quietly, I am at peace within and with my surroundings. While you are breathing, feel the peaceful sensations, filling your entire body, your mind, your spirit. Hold on to this peacefulness and be still. In this stillness and quietness, you experience higher consciousness. It is in this stillness and emptiness that you experience wholeness. It is in your higher consciousness that you experience enlightenment. It is with your higher consciousness you experience universal love. Embrace your higher consciousness that recognizes realization, the realization of God within and within everyone. It is with your higher consciousness you realize universal mind, universal intelligence, universal love. Surrender to your higher consciousness. To the realization of God, God the omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, the supreme power of the universe. With your higher consciousness, realize God's presence within. Feel your body's mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, aligned with your higher self, your higher consciousness that always seeks enlightenment, peace, love, and unity. Surrender to your higher self, to the will of God, and allow the will of God to be in charge of your life, your existence. Surrender to the will of God. For God is the provider for all your needs. God is the doer of all things. Allow God to be in charge. With your minds, envision the earth in front of you and all the people around the world. Are all united with peace, love, and harmony. Just envision the entire earth and the world, countries everywhere. All the people, regardless of religions or belief, they are all united under the presence of one God, universal God. They are united with one law, the universal law of love, compassion, and acceptance, and oneness. Hold this vision in your consciousness. Let the truth of oneness be part of you. We are one. We all are one with God. We are all connected to the same Creator, the Originator, the Great Spirit. We are all part of the Great Spirit. Feel this connectedness. Feel the unity consciousness. Feel the universal love. And let this vision integrate deep into your consciousness as you start coming back slowly to your physical body. Become aware of your physical senses. Start coming back and engage with your physical senses to the here and now. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. It is time now for the inspirational lecture. Our speaker today is our pastor, Reverend Steve Adkins. He is an ordained minister, medium, healer, teacher, and lecturer. He serves as pastor of the People's Church of Divine Prophecy, which meets here every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. He has been a spiritual worker for the past 25 years, and he has worked in the UK and USA demonstrating evidential spiritual existence and performing physical healings. Besides all these qualifications, Reverend Steve is the founder of this church, the People's Church of Divine Prophecy. It was his vision to create a sacred space for like-minded people like us to be here, to come and share our love and support for each other and to grow and develop spiritually. So help me welcome Reverend Steve Adkins.
Thank you, Askhen. The beauty of electronics. Most of the time I speak inspirationally, but today I felt that I would go back to an earlier time in my life when I was doing a lot of reading of the written word of things. Most of the time we need that written word to get it into our minds so we can interpret it, so we can then put it into practice. Reading the written word is what I call knowledge. Practicing it is the wisdom. And I always give the example of the difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing you don't put it in a fruit salad. And this is how we deal with our spiritual life. We accrue a certain amount of knowledge, and then we give it back out in our own personal interpretation to the world around us and how it best works with us in our individual life. That's one of the reasons that spiritualists, and I am a spiritualist, well, this is not primarily a spiritualist church. My discipline primarily comes from spiritualism, little Buddhism, a little bit of Roman Catholic. So primarily spiritualism is what I've managed to make work in my life. Some of the quotes I'm going to read, what part of it's from the Bible, part of it's from the National Spiritualist Association manual, and part of it is just from some inspirational writings that I've read by unknown authors. I'm not going to tell you which one is which, because a lot of the time I've noticed that somebody will say to you, you shouldn't be quoting the Bible. And that's because they don't like the Bible. Or, that's really not Christian when I quote the Spiritualist manual. So I'm not going to have you let you throw those prejudices up, no matter how small or how present they are. I'll just let you hear the written word and take it in on its face value. The first thing that I'm going to read is called We Believe in God. There is only one God. God is the highest and greatest good. We cannot see God, but we can know about God. Everything that exists because of God. God is the life in everything. God made the laws that govern life. God is the power and the force which moves all things, changes all things, but God never moves. God never changes. God is love. God speaks to you through your conscience. And here's the 3 things about conscience that I read in my thought for the day. Conscience is the inner voice which guides you to do only what's good and right. Conscience tells you to do that which works. Conscience tells you to be honest, true, kind, pleasant, friendly, useful, cooperative, and respectful. God is the greatest of all of these and more. The next thing that I would like to read is spiritual gifts. It's a statement about the spiritual gifts that are given to people and how they're given to them and why they're given to them. Now, concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I do not want you to be uninformed. Now, there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are other varieties of service, but the same God. The one is given to the Spirit the utterance of wisdom or experience, and to another the utterance of knowledge, written books, inherent knowing or education, according to the same Spirit. To another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another the workings of phenomenon, to another prophecy, to another the ability to distinguish between spirits, to another various kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. All these things are inspired by one and the same Spirit, who apportions to each individually as he wills. To each is given the manifestation of Spirit for the common good of all mankind and all that is on the earth. That last series that I read, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it sounded spiritualist, didn't it? It's actually the Bible. And it sounds a lot like spiritualist texts. And it talks all about the gifts of Spirit and how each person is endowed with that particular gift that God wants you to express in your life around you. Sometimes we see people that stand up and speak like me or do mediumship or do healing, and they go, wow, that must be really neat to do that. And they're overlooking their own inherent gift. That same person can walk up to a total stranger, speak to them, and make them feel completely comfortable about what's going on in their life. That is as much a gift of mediumship as somebody standing up here and proving the continuity of life after death. And it was kind of interesting because you hear a lot of things about how spiritualists talking to deceased spirits and deciding who they are is against the Bible. But right here in the Bible it says, to another the working of phenomenon, to another prophecy, to another the ability to distinguish between spirits. That's so, apparently, and I'm not trying to justify spiritualism by the Bible, but there is plenty of written text that supports what we do and how we do it. But back to each individual. To each is given the manifestation of spirit for the common good. These gifts are for us to help our fellow man. The purpose of our life on earth, as I have come to understand it, is to help those that are less able to help themselves. Here's one other quote. By virtue of similar qualities, conditions, wants, and aspirations, mankind is a brotherhood, and in this life, at least cannot escape the good or evil effects of contact and conversation. It is therefore necessary that this brotherhood be promoted by the more fortunate ones for the betterment and upliftment of the less fortunate ones. Somebody came to me the other day at work and they were asking me, they were a little bit distressed. They know that I pastor a church and they're getting kind of overrun by people, at this time of year wanting things from them, and they're getting stretched to the limit to where they can't meet the need financially that the people are putting on them. And I said, well, again, I'm not a Christian, but I can quote something out of the Bible that'll put it into perspective for you. Jesus said, if you have 2 coats, give one away. He didn't say give them both away and I give you another coat. We have to honor the gifts that are given to us for our use, whether they're spiritual or material. We have to use them with common sense. We have to use them with discretion where they're going to do the most good. And so when I told her that, she said, that's really interesting that you say that. If we don't honor and bless the gifts that are given to us by using them ourselves to a certain extent, then how can we expect to be given more? You can't keep giving away every dime you get expecting God to keep flowing money into your purse. You have to keep and be responsible for that which it takes to allow you to exist. You have to give, but you give what is excess. You don't give what you have to put food on your table with. You may share the food on your table, but you don't give the money that you're supposed to be buying food with to put food on the table for your own family. Invite people over and give them a share of the food, possibly. But this type of giving gets to almost be a vice rather than a virtue if you give to the point to where you cause yourself harm or disruption in your life. That begins to move into what they nickname the savior complex. Look at me, I'm nailed to a cross, feel sorry for me. God's going to take care of me because I'm giving so much. You have to be responsible about your spiritual growth. You have to be responsible about that which is before you to deal with. If you step off the roof of a building and you don't think it's your time to die, the natural law of gravity is going to take over, regardless of how spiritual of a person you are. Now, I know in the Bible there are examples of people that walk on water and people that levitate up into heaven, but I haven't met any of them lately, so I think most of us are going to have to conform to the natural laws around us. So with any spiritual endeavor, there is an awareness of the natural laws of the world that's around us, just like the law of gravity. No matter how much you don't believe in the law of gravity, it's still going to affect you. And there are other natural laws, not quite so visible, that are social, that are economic, that have just as definite effect on you if you don't conform to them or be aware of them. So we have a responsibility to be inspired by Spirit, but the actions we take many times have to be a little bit held down by the physical world that we're in. We have to use common sense. That's part of the slowing down of the Spirit within us. Common sense gives us the practical sense to approach things in. If we get involved with somebody and it become distressful to us, we have to know when to stop. We have to know when to step back and let the natural law take its way. And natural law states that we're all where we're at by the sum total of our own decisions. We are responsible for the actions that we take every time we take them. That's personal responsibility. So you have to be aware of those things and incorporate those into your charitable actions, into your spiritual endeavors. There's an old saying that they used to teach me in an organization when I was trying to get sober. It's, don't be careful you don't become so heavenly you're no earthly good. And that's part of the practical, feet on the ground type of spirituality that we have to have. There are, like I said, many books that we can refer to within this. And it's kind of interesting because whenever I think of laws and rules, I go, I don't like that sound. I don't like that concept. But if you think about it, most of what you have an aversion to is civil laws. Every time you hear they passed another law, this is a new law, your neighbor comes over and says, you know, this is against the law, what you're doing. It just, on and on and on with the civil law, it just makes you cringe. And it's kind of interesting because the original founders of civil law, the Constitution and those things, gave us empowering documents, gave us documents that told us what our freedoms were, not limited our freedoms. They told us that these are gifts endowed by the Creator to us. And today all we get out of politicians, and I'm not advocating one party over another, is limiting and inhibiting laws. Laws that take a little bit more away from us every time they're passed. Enough of the political talk. The other side of that coin is God's laws. When we hear God's laws, as a spiritualist, I take it as I understand it. I don't try to tell other people necessarily how to perceive it. Spiritualism is a religion of attraction. As you read the guidance in the spiritualist manual, the principles and all the other statements, they are suggested ways of acting with your life. They are not immutable commandments that you're going to have a terrible time in your life if you don't do them. They're suggestions for making your life better. They're suggestions for helping you understand situations that you don't understand now. You read it, you take it where you read it at. Your interpretation is what your interpretation is. And that's how I take all spiritual truths that I listen to. And that's the only way that I can accept them, because for years I was in religions of subjective development where this is the parameters of the belief system. You fit yourself into these parameters or you don't fit. And you sacrifice everything outside of those parameters. What's kind of interesting nowadays, because there isn't too many religions that you don't hear talking about grandmom or mom's in the sky with God, or they're right next to you, loving you. That's spiritualism. Christianity doesn't say that's what happens, yet there isn't hardly a funeral you don't go to that they don't say that's occurring. You can talk to them, just think about them, these kinds of things. The open approach is the best. It gives you the ability and the freedom to take it where it happens at. If you like the subjective form, that works fine for some people. My mother's been a Catholic ever since almost her birth. A lot of my relatives are. And my mother's a wonderful person. She came to the church in Casadega to see me get ordained. And she told everybody there, said, oh, are you like this faith? And she said, not really. She's pretty straightforward, just like I am. It's kind of genetic to us. She said, not really, but I love what it did for my boy. So again, you can see something and see the benefit to it without condemning it. So this is what I would leave you with this holiday time, is to look at things in the light of opportunity, to look at things in the way they're benefiting people. Anyone can see something that's wrong with something. Anybody with a pair of eyes, ears, and a brain can see what's wrong with something. But it takes a spiritual person to try to see the good in things that are going on, to find something positive to say about things. Some things you can't. Some things you'll never understand. But the majority of the things that we encounter in our daily lives, in our personal presence, we can find something positive to see about them. It's just like, I got these puppies, and I've sold them, and this one lady had bought one for her husband. It was the same kind of dog that her husband had had for years, and it died. She had to have it put to sleep. And these puppies were born on her birthday. And the puppy she picked ended up having something genetically wrong with it, so I was unable to sell it to her because Florida law says I'm responsible for up to a year for the vet bills for an animal that I sell. And if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'll just keep the dog myself. And I was really sad about her not being able to get that dog. But the positive side is I ended up with a puppy, and my wife was really upset because she wanted one of the puppies, and I'm, no, we're not keeping them. Well, God reached down there and had a little tweak and decided we were keeping one of them. So you just accept that on its face rather than being upset by it. See the opportunity for my wife to be happy. And I apologized to the woman. I could understand her pain, and she was really upset. She was telling me, you just don't want to sell me the dog. You're going to sell it to somebody else. And no, ma'am, I'm not. You're going to have it put to sleep. No, ma'am, I'm not. I'm keeping the dog. I love that dog. It's been raised in my house with love. I'm not harming that dog in any fashion. I'm loving it and keeping it, hoping it has a wonderful life. So when you look at things, again, try to see the good in things. Be the spiritual person. If you run into a problem, try to think of 2 solutions to it, even if they don't work. Get your mind geared towards seeing good things and solution-oriented thinking. Keep solution-oriented thinking in your life. Keep God in your life. And keep this wonderful time of year happy, high, and hopeful. Thank you. Merry Christmas.